Chapter 1. Pharaoh in Marseilles. Just before Napoleon escaped from Elba to fight the Battle of Waterloo, Pharaoh, the great ship, was approaching Marseilles. People on shore noticed that she was sailing slowly and in a strange way. One man said to another, "Something must have happened to the ship. I wonder what the matter is." A gentleman stood watching eagerly. He could not wait for the ship to reach the land. So he jumped into a small boat and ordered the boatman to lead his boat towards the ship. As the boat approached the ship, a young man appeared on the deck. He seemed to be the captain. He was a young man of about 20 years of age, with black fine eyes and dark hair. He seemed brave and courageous, and had the manner of one who is used to facing dangerous and difficult situations. "Oh, is it you, Dantes?" cried the gentleman in the small boat. "Is there anything wrong with the ship? Has anything happened during your journey?" The young man answered sadly, "A very sad thing has really happened. Mr. Morel, when our ship was about to reach Civita Vecchia, our brave Captain Leclerc passed away. This young man, Edmond Dantes, had been first officer after the captain in the Pharaoh, whose owners was Mr. Morel. Well, Edmond, we will all die some day," said Mr. Morel, "and the old must give a chance for the young. But what about the goods which the ship carries? Has anything happened to them after the captain's death? They are all quite safe and will bring us a fortune. Here's Mr. Danglars, who manages all the buying and selling, if you would like to get more information." Mr. Danglars was nearly 25 years old, with an unpleasant face and rough manners. Nobody liked Danglars, for he was jealous and selfish. He said to Mr. Morel, "Well, Mr. Morel, did you hear of the sad death of Captain Leclerc? We are so sorry for your great loss." "Yes, he was really a brave man. He was a good sailor who grew old between the sea and the sky, just as any sailor who serves the company of Morel. But a man needs not always be old in order to understand his work and succeed in doing it," Mr. Morel replied as he watched Dantes, who was working eagerly on the ship. "Look at our young friend Edmond. He seems to know his work well and to need no help from anyone, though he's only 20 years old." Danglars looked scornfully at Edmond, trying to hide his deep hatred for the young man, since he would gladly have made himself captain in his place. Danglars said, "Yes, he is young and full of self-confidence." As soon as the captain died, he took command of the ship without asking anyone. Moreover, he wasted a day and a half at the island of Elba, instead of returning directly to Marseilles. As for his taking command of the ship, Mr. Morel said that was his duty because he was first officer. But to waste a whole day and a half at Elba is a great mistake, especially if the ship was safe and in a perfect condition. But the ship was in an excellent state. He wasted all this time just to have some fun on shore. The ship owner did not seem to believe what he had heard, so he shouted to Dantes. As Dantes came closer, Danglars took a few steps back. Mr. Morel asked, "I'd like to know, why did you stop at the island of Elba, though everything was all right on the ship?" "I did not wish to stop there or waste any time, but before Captain Leclerc died, he ordered me to carry a letter to Marshal Bertrand. It was the last order that the captain gave me." Mr. Morel looked around carefully. He drew Dantes aside and whispered suddenly, "And how is Napoleon? Did you meet him?" "He's very well, so far as I could judge from my eyes. He asked about the ship. When did it leave Marseilles, and where did it go? He also asked about the goods which it carried. I think he would have bought the ship if it had no thing on board and I had been the owner. But I told him that I was only the first officer, and the owner of the ship was the company of Morel. He said that he knew you, and that the Morels had been ship masters for many years. He told me also about a Morel, who had been a soldier with him in the same brigade at Valence. "This is true," cried the master with great pleasure. "That was my uncle Policar Morel, who was later a captain in the army. If you told my uncle that Napoleon remembered him, you would see that his eyes will burn brightly with happiness and pride." He put his hand kindly on Edmond's arm and said, "You did well to carry Captain Leclerc's letter. But if anybody knew that you had carried that letter too, Marshal Bertrand, and talked to Napoleon, you might get into great trouble. So you must keep this secret and not tell anybody about it." Dantes grew worried. "Why should I get into trouble? I didn't even know what I was carrying. And Napoleon did not ask me about any important matters. He just asked about the ship. Excuse me, sir, I must go on with my work." As Dantes went away, Danglars returned and said, "Well, it seems that he has given you good reasons for his stopping at Elba and passing a day and a half there. Indeed, they are good reasons, my dear friend. Good. You see, it is a sad thing to see a man who does not know his duty, and consequently doesn't do it," said Danglars. "Dantes knows his duties very well, and has done what was ordered to do," answered the master gravely. "It was Captain Leclerc who gave orders for this visit to the island of Elba. By the way, hasn't Dantes given you a letter from Captain Leclerc?" "A letter? Did he send me any letter before his death?" "I think that Captain Leclerc wrote you a letter, in addition to that other letter." "How do you know that he had another letter?" Danglars' face turned red, and did his best to hide his feelings. "I was passing by the door of the captain's chamber. It was half open, and I saw him give 2 letters to Dantes." Mr. Morel said thoughtfully, "He didn't mention anything about these letters, but I'm sure that if there is any letter, he will give it to me." Just then Dantes came back, and Danglars retreated as he had done before. "Well, Dantes, have you finished now?" asked Mr. Morel. "Yes, sir." "Is there anything I can do for you?" "No, thanks." "Can you come and have dinner with me?" "Thank you, sir, but I must go and see my old father. I was so anxious about him. Do you know how my father is?" "I think he's well, though I've not seen him recently. I know that he likes to be lonely away from the people. That proves, at least, that he didn't need anything during your absence." "No, that's not right," Dantes replied. "My father's pride stops him from asking any help from anyone except from God. Well, I'd like to see you after your visit to your father. Thanks a lot for your kindness, Mr. Morel. But I have another visit I should pay. There is a very important person whom I must see as quickly as I could." "You're right, Dantes. I forgot that, of course, there's a young girl waiting for you with great anxiety, and who will receive you with no less pleasure than will your father. She's the beautiful Mercedes, who has come to me 3 times to ask whether anything had happened to your ship. Your lover is wonderful. Well, she's not only my lover, she is going to become my wife as soon as possible," said the new captain. "Well, well, my dear friend, I shall not waste your time. Do you need any money or any help from me?" "Thank you. I have got all my pay for 3 months. Now I must leave to see my poor father." "Yes, yes, you're really a wonderful son. Now go quickly to meet your father. I have a son too, and I should be very sad if he was kept away from me by anyone, especially after a 3 months' journey. There's one question I'd like to ask before you leave. Did Captain Leclerc give you any letter to me before he died?" "No, for he was too weak to write anything." "May I have a 14 days' holiday? I intend to get married and then go to Paris. Yes, of course, you may take your time, but you must get back again in 3 months, because my ship cannot sail without her. Young captain. Without her, young captain, cried Dantes cheerfully. Do you really mean to make me captain of the Pharaoh? Oh, Mr. Morel, how gentle you are. All right, Edmund. Go to your father and to your beloved Mercedes, and then come to see me. Shall I accompany you to the shore? No, thanks. I have some work to do with Danglars. Tell me, Dantes, were you pleased with him during this journey? Do you mean, is he a good friend? No, for I believe he has never liked me since. We had a quarrel when I asked him to come to the shore on the island of Monte Cristo. But as for his work, there's nothing against him. Well, Dantes, I hope to see you soon. The young captain jumped into a boat and asked the boatman to take him to the shore. The ship owner followed, the young captain with his eyes until he saw him reach the shore and disappear among the crowd. Danglars, too, followed him with his eyes, but with a different look, with a look full of hatred and envy.